One of the most frustrating clients that you are ever going to coach is the smart one. They understand everything. They can explain their own psychology. They've read the books, they've listened to the podcasts, they know the patterns that they keep repeating, and they can often use language that's even more sophisticated than yours. They seem to outthink every plan A, B, C, or D, and yet their life is usually middle lane. It's really not changing. So they stay hesitant at the same moments. They delay the same decisions. They kind of walk up to the edge and back again year after year. And eventually, because they're smart, the word self-sabotage will enter the conversation. And it's usually said with a kind of puzzled frustration, like, I can see it, but why do I keep doing this to myself? Now, here's the uncomfortable truth. Many coaches will quietly run into when they're working with this kind of intelligent client. Very smart people are often better at predicting their patterns than anyone else. And so because we have an inner subconscious protector version of ourselves, it's as brilliant as you are. And so if you are smart, or if your client is smart, your protective part of your psychosoma is usually very, very convincing at the level of brilliance you are, because it is you. So because this intelligence, this protective side, gives them something incredibly useful, it gives them language, they can explain the hesitation, they can rationalize the delay, it feels reasonable, it feels right and believable. They can produce thoughtful, articulate, convincing interpretations of exactly why the actions that they say are important to them aren't happening. And from the outside, even from a coach's perspective, this can look like deep self-awareness or even alignment. But inside for them, honestly, it's often, very often, still avoidance. Now, before we go further, if you've listened to these videos before, you know that I'm going to recommend our Somatic Skins Quiz. Really, it's just a very useful lens that helps make sense of this dynamic, because when pressure rises, aka change, most nervous systems will organize and then justify around a particular position. So some people will move toward force and decisive action. Others will move towards analysis or explanation, adaptation, or even relationship awareness. So we describe these patterns as the warrior, the sage, the shapeshifter, and the asset. And there's a short quiz you can take below to see which orientation tends to run your nervous system, especially when change is on the horizon. So many coaches find that once they can start to see their own orientation and their patterns really clearly, it becomes easier to spot similar and also distinct patterns in their clients. So think of it as a lens and tool upgrade. Now, I want you to make this video more particular, especially if you're a leader, transformational coach, a healer, a consultant, whatever, you work with humans, right? Think about one of your most brilliant clients. Think about how much they might understand logic, or how they can see and agree and express what meaningful change would look like. But they'd rather talk about it than change it. And so instead of testing, they will keep analyzing it, exploring it, wondering when they could maybe trust it or what they need to trust it. And every time they come back with really thoughtful objections, somebody is visiting, it just doesn't feel right, or I'm concerned about the cultural tone right now. Like, I've heard it all, so have you. And so they might have tons of reasons around why the timing may not be right, additional angles that should be considered, and they can explain exactly why any strategy is going to fail. And they might be right. Like, that's the thing, right? Like, I'm not assuming that I have all of the answers. and they have all, and they're wrong. My point is, when you zoom out and you look overall at their trajectory, very little is changing. I know it, they know it, everybody knows it. And so the one thing in all of their explanations that they haven't done is try it, test it. Even though they know that their current way of operating isn't working, and the antidote is to test. And not test it once or twice, but test it enough where there's experience under their belt, there's data points. So an example could be, right, a creative has something real to say, and their voice is there, it's been bubbling, that inner fire, their perspective is sharp, and when they speak about the subject in conversation, in the coaching conversations or otherwise, their conviction is moving. It's unmistakable. They're really there behind the eyes in their body. Maybe they're writing the book, but every time they approach actually putting words out there into the world or on their manuscript, it approaches the very heartbeat of their argument, and they waver, they soften. And language becomes more diplomatic. The edges of the idea get kind of watered down and mediocre. The chapters keep getting endlessly revised, so the project never really ends. And this is the thing. They will maybe say, well, there's something that's not clear yet. There's something that's not clear yet. Look, it's not because the idea isn't clear. It's because saying it plainly, powerfully, would mean now standing behind it for what happens next. I'll give another example. I had a client who had built a successful coaching practice. Their calendars were full, their clients respected them, their work had helped many. There was literally nothing wrong. In fact, the level of success that they had achieved put them at the top echelon of the coaching industry. And yet, although they adored their clients and the work, a quiet exhaustion had started to creep in. Almost like just the shadow of a pasted on smile of like, no, it's fine. It's good. And they started noticing that they started seeing those same problems again and again with the clients that they were working with. They started seeing the same levels of conversation, the same ceiling in the work. So it felt like, well, I could just keep doing what I'm doing, but I'm just creating a bigger monster that I keep having to just show up to. And yet they actually had clarity when we sat in quiet space together. They knew glimpses of what they wanted next. They knew more of what they were really shooting for and craving next. Not because there was anything wrong with what they had. Actually, they had a lot of gratitude, contentment in a way. They just knew, I've done it. And now I'm ready to evolve, because evolution is our natural state. And so they knew that in their next chapter, it would require expanding their work. It would require shifting their availability to be the beloved, always reachable coach. It would mean raising the bar of the standard of who they serve and disqualifying more people than not. And perhaps even redesigning their entire practice. So that idea, I remember this, and that idea of stepping into something new just felt like starting over. And so they kept hedging, justifying, and accommodating the version of the business that already existed. And I watched them. It slowly drained the energy of what once made it meaningful. Because if you have a seed of a vision of evolution, and yet you continually feed the old way, it's maybe gross to say, but it's sort of like trying to resuscitate a zombie. Let the old pass. Be willing to evolve into the new, and then develop into the person, mind, body, spirit, strategy, bravery that can do it. And that's the work that we're doing in the Prestige. So this is the point. Every meaningful evolution, every meaningful decision will cost something in order to gain something new. And that pressure point to change puts load on the organism, what I would call our psychosoma, our animal. It threatens our reputation, maybe that we have very intentionally built. It threatens our belonging. It threatens our current stability. And it threatens our inner identity of the way that we like to be seen in the world. And so the mind of a smart client can recognize the correct move immediately. They know what they need to do. But the nervous system asks a different question. Can the body carry what happens next? So you make the change, you move into it. Can your body carry everything that's going to happen next without fallout? If the system if your system predicts that pressure will exceed what your body is prepared for, it begins protecting itself. And sometimes that protection looks like procrastination. Sometimes it looks like endless preparation. Sometimes it looks like beautifully articulated reasoning around why the action is not quite ready yet. And again, you'll appear thoughtful and you'll feel pretty good about yourself, but inside, the pattern is remaining relatively the same. So once you begin to see this clearly, whether you're for yourself or for clients, the role of your coaching will change in a really practical way. Because let's say in the context for your clients, your smartest clients do not need more insight. They do not need perhaps another conversation around exploring why they are not taking the required actions. They need the capacity to carry the moment that their insight demands. And this doesn't mean just go out there and do it, right? It means actually building the infrastructure. So an entrepreneur has to learn to remain steady, even when stating the standards that may reduce their business in the short term. A leader must learn to hold the disapproval of someone, the disappointment or hurt in someone when they deliver a difficult but needed truth. A creative must learn to carry the exposure of their more honest art that comes from being seen. And when your nervous system becomes capable of holding that pressure, the behavior that once looked like self-sabotage begins to dissolve. That inner voice of doubt and delay and excuse becomes, adorable, but not that powerful. This is the deeper layer of development that we explore inside the Prestige, our Somatic Academy. We use immersive events that are like catalysts, simulators, to allow you to experience and expand your somatic range. And then we hold coaching circles twice a month where we train with powerful creatives and leaders, real presence, decision-making under pressure, and the skills in your psychosoma that you're going to need to succeed and evolve. Members develop the capacity required to execute what they already understand inside of this work. If that resonates with you, check us out. We'd love to welcome you for a season. You can also get on our wait list, by the way. Every now and then, we open up these events to guests. And if you would like to just jump in as a guest to one of these events, reach out to us directly so I can add you to our wait list and you'll be one of the first to know. Thanks for joining me and hanging out for a bit. If you received some insight from this video, remember, don't hold it. Move it into action and application. Let's see what changes. And please do like and subscribe. It helps us out a lot, and I'll see you next time.